Crime Reports on ABC Amba TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, we begin this broadcast with breaking news from Kumba Town. We are receiving images of Kumba Town showing some burnt homes and deserted streets owing to the high presence of the Cameroon's military. Reports state that the military helicopter is landing in Kumba for the second time today. The first was to supply more weapons to the military. The second hovers all around the city, monitoring as more military vehicles are flocking both in Bui and Ngo, breaking into homes and looting. At least 4 houses have been razed to the ground. Eyewitnesses say that today has been a tragic day for Kumba in particular and Bui in general, as the whole town is militarized. As if that's not enough, more trucks are on their way cruising via Ngo to pave their way into Bui. We are also told that more than 600 of Bia's military terrorists were deployed in Kumba Town alone. At least 8 quarters have been affected. We are closely watching the situation and we will bring you updates as it unfolds. Field Marshal No Pity is alive and well and inspiring the community. Atanga Ng's DDR has been exposed. Ambazonia's independence is non-negotiable. President Sacco once again set to address the nation. These stories and more on this broadcast of ABC Amba News. Marshal No Pity fully discredits La République du Cameroon's military propaganda and Betty Asomo's insensitivity as he is seen gallivanting, mobilizing, and inspiring his people within the communities. Let's watch. Contrary to La République du Cameroon's false narrative that the Ambazonian restoration forces are terrorizing instead of protecting Ambazonians, this clearly and completely dispels that rhetoric. In an operation dubbed Keep Bafut Clean, Ambazonian restoration forces confronted Cameroonese forces at the Bafut Colonial Gendarmerie Brigade in Agioti. Operation Keep Bafut Clean got underway around 5 a.m. Sunday morning and ended by sunrise. The gendarmes put up a bit of resistance but were confronted by the heavy firepower of the ARFs, leaving some to surrender while others fled the scene. In a leaked note to their bosses, La République du Cameroon soldiers lamented that they were under attack and one of the gendarmes was dead. The ARFs then stormed the tattered building and made some harvest of what was left behind. 2 AK-47s, lots of military gear, bulletproof vests and boots, etc. It is worth mentioning that this surgical attack was a collaboration between General A4, General Tiger, and General Who No Go, No Go Go No. The natives of Bafut confirmed that they heard gunshots early this morning till around 11 a.m. All ARFs returned to the base with no casualties reported. It is being reported that the ADF of Cho Ayaba set out over the weekend to block Ambazonia restoration forces of Donga Mantung. Reports indicate the ADF facilitated the La République du Cameroon's military to escape. Comfort Confer has the details of this report.
What is success?
The Ambazonia Restoration Forces of Donga Mantung County launched a well-calculated offensive against the Etudi marauders yesterday, with the intention to reduce the bullies to lifeless bodies, envelop and post them back to their forefathers, and to keep the weapons the raiders have been using to destroy Ambazonian lives for self-defense. Unfortunately, the mission ended not as planned because the ARF were distracted by the enemies in the house, the ADF of Ayabacho Lucas. Here is what the mission commander for Donga Mantung Pythons said. Immediately we gunned down the first military man, got the second injured, and were about to chase and finish him to complete our mission and harvest. We came under very heavy attack from behind. We thought the military had surrounded us, and we started shooting our way out for a tactical retreat, just to discover that they were people we knew very well. The ADF second in command for Takup in Buik, known as One Mama, and his boys were after us. Some dressed in La République du Cameroon military uniforms. The question we are still asking is, how did they know we were on a mission? We can't imagine that it's a group which knows us very well, and we have always considered them neighbors. Ayaba Cho Lucas is one of such names that Ambazonians do not like to mention nor hear when leaving home in the morning, because that name is a sign of bad omen. And just thinking about it at the start of the day can ruin an Ambazonian's whole day. However, completely ignoring him has proven to be impossible because of his uninterrupted diabolic acts against the suffering people of Ambazonia. Recently, a video has been circulating on social media whereby the ARF tested and were jubilating over the success of an improvised explosive device, aka IED, which they made. Ayaba Cho's disciples labeled the video scam, put their logo on it, and disseminated to poison the people's minds. It is not new that since 2017 that the colonial dictator declared war on Ambazonians, the ARF have been improvising weapons and improving on them. Everybody knows about the Lefancé of Field Marshal of Lebialem, which saw its advanced stage with the name Fontem Asangani, which has equally been upgraded to the IED, which everybody has seen the ARF use to shatter the La République du Cameroon military trucks. On the other hand, Ayaba Cho and his cohorts have been infamous for betrayal, killing, rape, and confiscating of weapons from fellow Ambazonians. When Ayaba Cho Lucas handed over General Ivor to the La République du Cameroon military in 2018, he shamelessly appointed General Efang when Ivor's corpse was still lying on the street. That and many more are still painfully very fresh in Ambazonian memories. Severally, the ADF have been accused of colluding with the La République du Cameroon military, because there is no one single memory of when Ayaba Cho has ever been involved in a battle with the French Cameroon soldiers. Talk less of killing one. None of the ADF fighters has ever been killed either by the invading soldiers. Ambazonians are no longer doubting that Ayaba Cho is the enemy in the house, and he is more dangerous than the real enemy, who is La République du Cameroon. Whatever he stands to gain remains known to him. But Ambazonians have been sending messages to Cho Lucas to know that himself, La République du Cameroon, and France put together cannot stop Ambazonia from happening. Comfort Confo on Prime Reports with ABC Amba News.
The ugly agenda of Atanga Ng's DDR has been exposed. From a video that went viral on social media over the weekend, 3 ex-restoration forces who purportedly had been evangelized into La République du Cameroon's disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration campaign were found dead. Mike Fusey reports And I warn you, viewer discretion is strongly advised. Mike?
It is not news to us that La République du Cameroon is incapable of keeping its word. It is not news to us that La République du Cameroon thrives on criminal mischief, lies, manipulation, and deception. The latest victims of these frequently used negative vices of La République du Cameroon have been the image of the so-called DDR Center. Just to refresh our minds, we must remember that the DDR Center was supposed to be a rehabilitation center for ex-combatants recruited from amongst the members of the Amazonian Restoration Fighters. They were thus promised jobs after their period of rehabilitation. ABC Amba TV has been reliably informed that these inmates have been living under horrible conditions, including the lack of food. We have seen videos of inmates rioting or protesting against their poor living conditions at the center and the non-fulfillment of promises. In a recent video, General Nambere, speaking in French and almost in tears, was lamenting the non-fulfillment of promises made to them. He made reference to the case of one Kawa Yannick, who was a celebrity during the so-called Grand Dialogue, as he was the spokesperson for the defected Amazonian fighters present at that event. Today, Kawa Yannick is recovering in the hospital after being arrested and tortured by La République du Cameroon's criminal gendarmes for the crime of transporting petrol from Victoria to Douala to be sold as a means of survival. Another video has surfaced today showing 3 other inmates of the DDR Center who it is alleged were picked up and executed without any explanation or trial by some gendarmerie criminal officer. I must state here that this is not an exhaustive list. The questions that these inmates, their families, and the general public find themselves asking are these. Whatever happened to the jobs these inmates were promised? Why are they being systematically killed? Whatever happened to the bright future they were promised? Were they simply deceived and intentionally lied to? Well, that will not be very surprising given the fact that the very reason that Amazonians now find themselves in this senseless war is because of La République du Cameroon's lies, deception, and false promises. When the Southern Cameroons came together with La République du Cameroon under a federal structure of 2 equal states, the Constitution clearly stated that the form of the state was never to be changed. But it didn't take long for them to violate that clause. Even the fake United Republic of Cameroon that took its place was dealt away with in 1984 by Paul Biya with a stroke of his pen. He didn't even have the courtesy to notify Southern Cameroonians of his decision. That is the arrogance and utter lack of respect with which the people of the Southern Cameroons and Amazonia have been treated since coming together with La République du Cameroon. Going forward, the message to all Southern Cameroonians, Amazonians, and especially our restoration fighters is this: trust La République du Cameroon at your own peril. Their word is as worthless as a pile of dung. Mike Fusey on Prime Report with ABC Amba News.
Britain then administering authority over the British Southern Cameroons was allegedly hoodwinked by the French, while the United Nations turned a blind eye as the French cooked up and pushed the independence by joining concept, which finally deprived the Southern Cameroons of real sovereignty. The UN and the British stayed away from the Fumban talks, where a so-called federal constitution was imposed on the Southern Cameroons by dictator President Amadou Ahidjo of French Cameroon, who attended the talks with a delegation among whom were advisors from France. Molanjo Lutumbe, who at that time was 34 years old, by 1961 observed and argued that the people of Southern Cameroons, by UN General Assembly Resolution 1608, Section 15, of April 21, 1961, were to attain independence on October 1, 1961, by joining the sovereign state of La République du Cameroun in a federation of two states equal in status. Molanjo Lutumbe and his group, who had been fighting for the restoration of the statehood of the Southern Cameroons, pushed many points to make the case for the struggle. Point number 1. The concept of independence by joining had been defined the day after the UN General Assembly passed the landmark Resolution 1514, Section 15 of December 14, 1960, which granted unconditional independence to all trust and colonized territories. Point number 2. The landmark resolution was updated the very next day on December 15, 1960 by UN General Assembly Resolution 1541, Section 15, which states that for a small country, which although entitled to sovereign independence in its own right, found itself incapable of bearing all the burdens of a sovereign state, such as for defense and diplomatic relations worldwide, such a state would be deemed to have attained a full measure of self-governance by joining a neighboring sovereign state that already had the facilities it lacked. Point number 3. The process of joining, without compromising the independence status of either party, was to be achieved by the parties joining either by way of association or by integration. The resolution provides that if the parties want to join by way of association, the smaller territory retains its territorial integrity and constitution, which it is free to amend without consulting the bigger country it wishes to associate with, subject only to any agreement reached on the sharing of power in a federation of two states equal in status, as publicly pronounced at the UN by dictator President Ahidjo of La République du Cameroun. Point number 4. If the parties choose to join by way of integration, they share three powers of government equally and enumerated by the following headings. Heading A, the presidency. The office of the president of the integrated country was to rotate, alternating each term between the two joining states. Heading B, the judiciary. The parties were to provide an equal number of magistrates and judges throughout the integrated territory, and where the judiciary is headed by a chief justice, that post also alternates in like manner as the presidency. Heading C, the federal legislature. For the equality at the federal legislature, the people from the small state held a veto power on all draft bills before they were passed into law. Point 5. When therefore on February 11, 1961, the UN supervised a plebiscite in southern Cameroons to ascertain the wishes of the people as to whether they wished to attain independence by joining either Nigeria or La République du Cameroun, the terms of joining had earlier been clearly settled by UN General Assembly Resolution 1541 of December 15, 1960, as mentioned above. The joining also had to comply with the positions of the UN Charter Articles 102/103, which mandatorily required that any agreement reached by the parties must be evidenced in writing and a copy filed at the UN Secretariat for publication, should need arise. Point 6. The situation of the people of the former UN Trust Territory of Southern Cameroons is that, pursuant to UN General Assembly Resolution 1608, Section 15 of April 21, 1961, the UN fixed under the following items. Item A. The date and time of termination of the British Trust Territory mandate over Southern Cameroons to be at midnight on September 30th, 1961. Item B. prior to the termination, a tripartite conference between Britain as the administering authority over Southern Cameroons, the government of Southern Cameroons, and the government of La République du Cameroon was to take place urgently to draw up a union agreement embodying the previously agreed terms of association between the two Cameroons parties and naturally in compliance with the governing provisions of the UN Charter, Articles 102/103. Item C. Southern Cameroons was to become independent October 1st, 1961. Item D. On the same date of October 1st, 1961, the independent state of Southern Cameroons was to join the state of La République du Cameroon by the creation of a federation of two states equal in status. Point 7. The tripart meeting prior to the independence of Southern Cameroons on October 1st, 1961 failed to hold. So, there is no agreement between the two Cameroons parties setting out the terms of association. No written agreement as mandatorily required by Article 102 of the UN Charter has been filed at the UN Secretariat. Accordingly, the joining process as stipulated by the UN General Assembly Resolution 1541, Section 15, has never taken place. It is therefore safe to conclude that until the parties are able to agree on mutually acceptable terms of association documented in writing, with a copy of the agreement filed at the UN Secretariat to comply with UN Charter Articles 102/103, the parties never legally joined. Point 8. La République du Cameroon vigorously oppressed the passing of UN General Assembly Resolution 1608, Section 15 of April 21st, 1961, which granted independence to Southern Cameroons. So although the resolution was nevertheless passed, La République du Cameroon has devised various strategies from time to time to annex Southern Cameroons. Point 9. La République du Cameroon passed a unilateral annexation law number 24/61 in its rubber stamp parliament and had it promulgated by its dictator president on September 1st, 1961 as a decree. At that time, when Southern Cameroons was still a UN trust territory under British colonial administration. That law changed the name of La République du Cameroun to La République fédérale du Cameroun, effective October 1st, 1961, the date when Southern Cameroons was to become independent. No contract of union, as stipulated by UN Charter Article 102, was established and filed at the UN Secretariat. As soon as the British Defense Forces departed at midnight on September 30th, 1961, and even earlier, La République du Cameroun moved its occupation in security forces into defenseless Southern Cameroons, suppressed the independence of Southern Cameroons, and has been in colonial occupation ever since. Point 10. All attempts by Southern Cameroons to celebrate their day of independence have been brutally suppressed by La République du Cameroun, which has termed that secessionist activities, and many Southern Cameroons have suffered imprisonment and torture, and many have died in the process, and a large number of Southern Cameroonians have sought asylum in foreign lands to escape imprisonment or death. At home, the arguments hold. This is the root cause of the ongoing genocide in our beloved Amazonia that some would want to incorrectly call the Anglophone crisis. This is where we are as a people. I am Dr. Unguambe on Prime Reports with ABC Amba News.
And now, let's listen to Dr. Unguambe as he brings a brief history of the Ambazonian struggle for independence.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to read a statement from President Samuel Ikome Sacco, who is set to address the nation on Thursday, September 30th at 8 p.m. Amba time. And I read, "This is a special week for our nation. Ambazonians of all ages, religions, orientations, both home and abroad, will be representing our awesome diversity as we immortalize the fearlessness of spirit of our fallen freedom fighters, our restoration forces, men and women who took upon themselves the duty to ensure our dignity as a people, specifically during this Independence Day, with the deep-seated belief that we too deserve a place in this wonderful universe. We will combine our voices with the selflessness of the Ambazonian Restoration Forces, currently asserting our stands against the cruel Franco-Cameroon forces of occupation. And to pride it all, I will be addressing the nation on the eve of October 1, our Independence Day," end quote. It is on this note that we close today's news broadcast. On behalf of all of us here at the ABC News team, I'm Cynthia Williams. Stay tuned.